Debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Click OK, Neil, Adam, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So welcome one and all.
How are you?
Hello.
I'm good, other than waking up to a message from Brian's Logic, which I'll read out to you. It says, "You got to hear this. I'm only 11 minutes in and this guy's telling Dave what the scientific method is incorrectly. And Dave is almost correcting him on it. But he didn't learn about it, so he's a numpty." He goes on and then gives me the link. Right. So we've been covering this in the pre-show and we've reached a point that presumably Brian's Logic was referring to. So I'll do the usual YouTube stuff, which is to say, go and let Flat Earth Dave interviews channel no at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed by the YouTube algorithm or Dave himself, the videographer in this instance. The idea being that if Dave was to do a response to us, he would put a link to my video in his video about us talking about him. Now, where we've reached in this particular video, we have covered maybe 5 minutes of this prior to the live stream. That is to say, we've done it in the pre-show. If you're a member, you can check that out at your leisure once this recording is finished. As always, become a member if you did happen to want to watch the first 5 minutes. But we've reached a point where basically Dave's been asked what science is. He's rattled off a generic, incorrect, crappy answer. And then the guy, Dr. Shiva in this instance, has said, "No, that's not right. What's the first step?" And Dave's gone, you tell me. So based on that, I've gone pretty nuts and started swearing, which I've got to try and get a handle on. I've been listening back to my own shows recently and going, my language is absolutely abysmal. So in at least this live show, I'm going to try and put a bit of like a stopper on it and see if I can rein it in just for the live show at the very, very least. In spite of my outrage at what we're hearing in this instance, you'll know why when you hear it yourself. Now, I'll give you a bit of a backstory so I don't have to do it in the middle of the reaction to it. But I've approached Dave and tried to educate him on this exact thing. What is science? Now, there's a reason why Dave, Jaron, Bob, Whitsitt, all of the grifters didn't want to know what science was. It's because it interferes with their grift. They use these words like experiment to peddle ether. Incoherent dielectric accelerative planes, that's all punted with bullshit science that has no validity, that hasn't been through the method. So knowing that is detrimental. Dave shut me down when I tried to educate him on this stuff. Instead, boasted about his bleeding boat and how much money he gets from app sales.
It landed east of where it took off. It should have landed, it was up for over 3.5 hours. It should have landed 3,000 miles out west.
Yeah, notice the shilly language where Dave's telling you how much globe should have affected this item. Doesn't matter that he's bracing against it. He's using the same words, saying Earth will turn underneath this object, or Earth should turn underneath this object. It's still you, the audience, hearing how Earth's turning underneath stuff, and Dave's the one telling you. Now you'll go, I'm telling you how it isn't turning underneath. You're the one who brought it up. You're the one describing this rhetoric. You're the one describing Earth turning.
The
What
ocean.
balloon are you talking about, Dave?
This shot right here is just a weather balloon. Went up to 100.
Yeah, so let's just go to
20,000 feet.
Let's take time out here. Let's just take
Okay.
first principles. Okay.
Yep.
Let's just go to very simple first principles.
Sure.
Okay. And let's go to the basic scientific method. So let's review what the scientific method is. What is the scientific method?
Dave will now lie through his back teeth with bullshit that he doesn't understand. Let's listen.
observable, repeatable, testable, with an independent variable and a fixed variable. Something that's done in
Well,
nature.
no, that's not what the scientific method. Let's just follow what is the scientific method. What's the first step in the scientific method?
You tell me where you.
Where are you going to stutter and go from here, Dave? Because you don't know, do you? Do you remember shutting me down? Do I need to put up the messages? I'm not that kind of videographer, I'll be honest. I find it tedious. But just take my word for it when I tell you I went through this with Dave and in no uncertain terms he rejected the information, shut me down and told me how many apps he was flogging with a bullshit world that you definitely don't live on.
You want to go with this?
What? He asked you what the scientific method was, Dave. That's where he wants to go. Isn't that obvious from his question about the scientific method and him asking you to detail it and you attempting to and him telling you no, pointing out how wrong you were and then asking you what the first step is and you just simply putting the question back to him because you don't know, you bleeding con man.
Well, I think we need to follow the framework, what we're going to use to get to truth.
Sure.
So the scientific method, because otherwise it's just everyone's just talking over each other.
Sure.
The scientific method says first you come up with a hypothesis.
No, that's not what you first come up with. That's incorrect. Dr. Shiva doesn't know either. A hypothesis for what? A hypothesis is a suppositional statement of cause and effect. Well, you've got to have an effect to be studying to formulate a hypothesis. So that's step 2. Step 1 is observe naturally occurring phenomena. Something happening in nature that you can go, I wonder why that happened. That's a phenomena. That's a step that you must take. You must see it happening first before you can say, I'm going to suppose a cause. That's a hypothesis. A supposed cause of the effect you observed in step 1.
Step 1.
Sure.
No, that's step 2. Suppositional explanation in an if and then statement. That's a hypothesis, otherwise known as scientific prediction. It predicts the cause of an effect. It is yet to be validated. It's step 2, not step 1. You're just wrong, Dr. Shiva.
You can have a hypothesis that the Earth is round or the Earth is flat or the Earth.
No. A hypothesis is a suppositional explanation. That's what it is. It's not, I can have a hypothesis that Earth is flat. What? Is Earth being flat a phenomena that you observe in nature that you want to know the cause of, that you're going to vary and manipulate causal influences for? No. It seems like Dr. Shiva's holding Dave to task on something he doesn't know either. You can't have a hypothesis in scientific terminology. Earth is flat, Earth is a ball. Those are shapes. There's an aspect that's flat and a shape on the table, and you think that's science. Wrong.
Sure.
Is
Sure.
whatever. You know,
Why are you agreeing with him? A second ago, you didn't know what it was, and now you're nodding along with him. How do you know he's right? This is what the problem is with charlatans like Dave Weiss. How do you know he's right, Dave? You're nodding along. You don't have the slightest clue what science is. You're asking him to tell you, and you're just agreeing like he knows. That's the problem, isn't it?
multi-dimensional. Okay, it's not Earth. It's maybe 15th dimensional, whatever that is. Okay.
What the bloody hell are you babbling on about? 15th dimensional. There's length, breadth, and depth. That's it. What the hell are you talking about? 15th dimensional. Non sequitur first and foremost. You're talking about science. Dimensional what? Pseudo-Riemannian dimensions, potentially. I don't think so, sir. This is definitely not science.
Okay. Then the next thing you do, you agree that you're going to do an experiment.
But your idea of science is, I say Earth's a tomato. Or it could be a blancmange. Now we go forth and experiment. I say Earth has a hypothesis of could be blancmange. Now we experiment. You dickhead. What the hell are you babbling about? Why are you calling yourself a doctor? Because this is a stupid title for somebody who comes up with some sort of garbage. No, suppositional statements like Earth is a ball aren't going to sit well when observing natural phenomena and trying to figure out the cause thereof. You're making this stuff up, sir. You don't know what science is either. You're worse than Dave. Because you've established yourself as an authority by calling yourself doctor, and then babbling crap that's incorrect also. You're no better than the charlatan sat next to you.
Sure.
The methodology.
What do you mean, sure? He's wrong, Dave. Fundamentally wrong. But given that you don't know what science is, and what he's just said contradicted the list of garbage nonsense that you spewed out your mouth, why would you be agreeing with him? Why aren't you defending the position that you just spewed out 35 seconds ago? That was also wrong.
Of an experiment, step 2.
So you think experiment is step 2, do you? Based on Earth could be flat, Earth could be a sphere. It's a hypothesis, you know. It sounds like he's just repeating the shite he got from a minister called Pastor Will Duffy. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Then you gather data from that experiment.
Sure.
Okay, and you agree what data you're going to gather.
So I agree, we'll gather data of whether or not Earth has the constituent parts of a blancmange. It's my hypothesis, you know. Earth is a blancmange, so saith the scientific hypothesis. You clown.
Sure.
So
why are you agreeing with him? This dickhead doesn't know anything. Don't agree if you don't know to agree. You don't know he's right. He isn't.
but once that's step 3 in the scientific
So
method.
what was step 3 again? I had step 2 being step 1, hypothesis construction. And then experiment, step 3, being step 2. So what was step 3, according to you?
That once you gather that data,
Oh, is it gathering data? So it's step 1, formulate a hypothesis, a prediction for whatever you like, it seems. Because that prediction's going to be Earth is a sphere. All right. Is that a variable? Earth being a sphere? Is it your independent variable or your dependent variable, Mr. Clown Shoes Shiva? You don't know what science is either. Neither does Dave. You shouldn't be agreeing, and you certainly shouldn't be telling us what a hypothesis construction is, because this is garbage.
you organize that data, and then
I'll see. So if I figure out all of the ingredients for a blancmange and I organise that data and then go on a merry little dance finding out whether or not Earth has the constituent parts of a blancmange and then put them in a nice little graph, so far I've competed with your clown shoes method, haven't I? Are we going to be establishing in the experiment whether or not Earth's a blancmange or not?
you produce a model from that data. What that
Gotcha. So all that data of ingredients will be basically a model. I'm going to call that graph, and all the data that I gathered about blancmanges and their ingredients, I'm going to call that a model. Earth blancmange model. I've got lots of data. I got it on a graph. It's basically a model. It's lots of numbers on a piece of paper. That's a model, isn't it?
that data gives.
Sure.
If that
Why again is Dave agreeing with this? Dave, you don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be saying anything. You certainly shouldn't be agreeing.
data matches your hypothesis,
I see. So when I gather up bits of blancmange ingredients from around town, like not from shops, like just from scraping them up around town, like scraping them up off the floor, if I can achieve all of the ingredients for a blancmange, that's basically comporting to my model. I mean, I've gathered all the data. I've put it on a piece of paper. That's a model. So I'm basically proving Earth's a blancmange by this standard, aren't I?
you say, great, I believe I have something here that's true.
I believe I have something that is true. Earth, it be a blancmange.
All right, let's do it.
I did it for you metaphorically. It made you look stupid, both of you. Just so we're clear what's happening here. I'm making you look stupid with your idiocy that isn't science.
Let me finish.
Sure.
Let's just go through, because a lot of people didn't learn this.
You, sir, are an arrogant prick. Dr. Shiva, you're stopping him because in your deluded idiot mind, you think you're in authority. Yeah? I bet you sit in some quack couch telling people about their frigging feelings, don't you? I bet you're a psychologist. Yeah? With this demeanour of certainty, like, I am the authority. Let's just make you stop for a moment so I can babble nonsense and seem important. You pretentious wanker. Let it be known, this man doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just spewed complete garbage. He has no right whatsoever to sit in his pompous tone, demeaning Dave, even though Dave's a clown and a charlatan and a fraud and a scumbag and a con man and a grifter. It doesn't mean you've got any right to be pompous. Yeah?
This in third grade.
Yep.
What? You think you learnt that in third grade? Show me the lesson. I challenge Dr. Shiva to show me a third-grade science lesson that in any way whatsoever comports with the shite he just spewed. Because it won't. He's a fraud. You will not find any third-grade lesson that describes formulating a hypothesis with the concrete noun of an aspect that's flat or a geometric shape that's spherical. You will not do that. You are an idiot, Dr. Shiva.
Which is, and I don't think the educational system teaches this anymore.
So you just said it was third grade, and now you've contradicted yourself by saying that the educational system won't teach it. Would that be you comprehending that someone like me could come along and say, okay, show us the third grade lesson that actually parallels with the garbage that just came out of your mouth? Oh, I bet not actually leave that on the table because I'll be called out on it. They don't teach that anymore. What, the stuff you just made up, sir? No, they never taught that ever. You just made it up. You're a fraud. Don't pretend to my audience and yours and Dave's that this was ever any part of any education structure ever. It's not. It's the ramblings of a fraud liar like yourself. You're in good company. You're next to a grifter called Dave Weiss. Could be a big bald Dave. Goes by Flat Earth Dave. End quote. Could be a big bald Dave.
And then if you prove that.
Prove what? So far, you've got two suppositions that are nonsensical, contrasted with blancmange by me.
Your data.
What, data ingredients for blancmange? Yeah, got all that down.
And that model matches.
Yeah, it matched. Yeah, we gathered up all of the primary and constituent parts for a blancmange just on the surface of Earth. It was amazing. Earth be a blancmange. I've got a model based on the maths that we gathered with the empirical data.
Your hypothesis, then you.
Yeah, my hypothesis was Earth is blancmange. Yep. Got it all covered.
Do another experiment.
Are we going to do another one? I don't think we need to. I'm pretty sure I've just covered it, haven't I? Didn't I cover every aspect of what you just jabbered on about nonsensically, claiming it was third grade and then it had never been taught? Or they used to.
Correct.
And you iterate over and over and over again.
Correct.
And if you say that it's reproducing, and if you say at this point in time, based on the data we have.
News just in. 25 other people scraped up all of the ingredients for blancmange off Earth's surface. They did it in multiple countries. Earth's a blancmange. It's true everywhere.
We have a law that the Earth is XYZ, okay?
What law would that be? We have a law that Earth can be X, Y, and Z. When I use laws of nature, natural laws, nothing to do with science, which is the discussion point on the table currently, but apparently he needs to throw in that there's laws and they're XYZ. Now, we detail things like gas dispersing into volumes. That's called entropic dispersion, entropy being the second law of thermodynamics. So that's where we'd find that law useful. You haven't actually detailed any law. You've just said that they do exist and that they describe X and Y and Z. Empty nonsense from a bullshitter who just lied to his audience, my audience, and Dave's audience about what science is. He hadn't got a clue. He made it up. It was wrong.
Got it.
So let me give you an example so let's just set the framework of science here. Or do we agree that
you're going to set the framework of science? That sounds familiar. That sounds like something that a bullshitter called Witsit would come out with, talking about frameworks. No, science is a method, just for Dr. Shiva and indeed my audience at large. The method of science is as follows. Step 1, observe natural phenomena. That is something occurring in the physical and natural world that you want to know what caused it. Step 2, suppose a cause for the phenomena you observed at step 1. Now, ipso facto, when you do that, you have, by default, formulated a hypothesis. Because step 1, observe a dependent variable. The phenomena is a variable. It's something occurring, something's happening, something's varying. And you want to know why it's varying. So you suppose the thing that you think will cause it to vary, that's your independent variable. So at the end of suppositional causal influence are being supposed, you have both independent variable, supposed cause, and dependent variable, effect being studied. That is a hypothesis. It's a if and then statement. If causal influencer, that's independent variable, then dependent variable, phenomena being studied. Alongside it, you've got a null. That's to say, the antithesis of your prediction. If independent variable, that's a positional causal influencer, is varied, then the dependent variable won't happen. Zero difference. That's called a null hypothesis. Both can't be true. You can't both cause something to happen and not cause it to happen at the same time. Only one outcome will happen. When you... Step 3. Do an experiment. That's vary your supposed causal influencer, your independent variable. You vary it to see if it causes the thing you're studying or not. And if it does, you put a tick next to that prediction. If A, then B, tick. Because if A,
The framework's not true.
you varied A, then B, the phenomena you're studying happened. You caused it to happen when you varied A. You validated your prediction. That's a successful scientific experiment. Alternatively, you can validate the null, the zero difference result. You vary A and absolutely nothing happens. Tick. Your scientific prediction that A would not cause B, that's a zero difference result prediction, was validated, proven. It didn't cause it then. Now, this is why the method is empirical. Step 1, observe phenomena. Step 2, formulate scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis. Step 3, actualize prediction by varying supposed cause to see if it causes the effect. That is science. Neither of these two numpties on screen have the slightest idea about that process. What this guy's actually doing, and it's clear to everybody listening now, is he's trying to lead Dave down a ham-handed segue of a path to TFE. That's what he's actually doing, and he's trying to lead with Will Duffy's charlatan fraud use of the word experiment and shoehorn it into a method that he's just bullshitted about and made up to lead Dave in with. Well done, Dr. Bullshit.
True. First, in biological and engineering systems, you manipulate a system of some kind.
Right, engineering is man-made. It sits absolutely without question outside the realms of natural science. When I said earlier, step 1, observe natural phenomena. When it comes to engineering, you already know the cause. I wonder what caused that. Insert word about a bridge's behaviour. Well, a man made the bridge. Oh, he didn't make it very well. Yeah, that's still a man making it, though, isn't it? It's not a naturally occurring phenomenon, therefore sits outside the realms of science. You're trying to figure out what caused things in nature. You don't study what man makes because you know what caused it. A man made it. But this guy's bundling engineering into science, isn't he? Yeah, he's a charlatan and he doesn't know what science is. Engineering definitely isn't science.
Then you measure.
That sounds a bit like, what's that word that goes along with measuring stuff? Oh, maths.
The data from that system. And then you mine that data.
So, like gathering up my blancmange data. I mine that data, do I? I gather it all together in a nice format, and then I call that a model, do I? Hey, Brian, we're covering the video you sent me.
So that doctor guy, he is the problem we have in the world. People like him and Dave, they are the problem with the world.
I absolutely agree. It's a couple of charlatans talking to each other that neither of them know what they're talking about. One has got the pompous arrogance to feel like he does, though. This one. The other, he knows he's a bullshitter. Dave does. In this particular scenario, he just doesn't realise the guy talking to him is a bigger bullshitter than he is. Dave doesn't realise that.
Yeah, that doctor guy, he only actually gets worse from there, Nathan. The level of BS gets worse. The BS meter goes through the roof. And what you'll notice about that doctor guy is, as this goes on, he's terror of anything. He keeps on looking for talking about data and different things. But when Dave wants to actually present that to him, he wants nothing to do with it. Because he wants to do exactly, I was exactly the same thing I had in my head as you just said a minute ago. He wants to shoehorn in some BS mock, not an experiment. That's not an experiment, just like Will Duffy did, and come up. He's going to start off with some globe pre-assumption. He's going to add a little globe stuff and come up with a globe, because that's all that guy is capable of doing.
And then you model it. It's called the 4 M's.
Okay.
So manipulate, measure, mine, and model.
What the bloody hell is this? It's called the 3 B's. Bullshit, bravado, and more bullshit.
If the model matches your hypothesis, you continue. If it doesn't, you have to throw away your hypothesis.
Okay, so my hypothesis, Earth is a blancmange. We went around, we gathered up all the data by scraping the surface of Earth for all the ingredients for blancmange. And we confirmed it. So I keep my hypothesis confirmed. Earth is a blancmange by this standard. It's the 4 M's. Obviously.
It's false. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a red hat, a blue hat, doesn't matter how wealthy you are.
That's right, that's correct. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a blue pair of trousers or a green pair of trousers. Once you've scraped up all that data and put it into the chart and turned it into what we are now going to call a model, and now I say Earth matches the model. Here's my blancmange model. Here's what I got from Earth. They match.
It doesn't matter if you're good looking or not. You're just fucking wrong.
Yep.
So,
I got one for you. I have one for you. An example.
No, but wait. Do you agree this is a scientific?
Yeah, 100%.
No, Dave. No, you haven't got a clue what the scientific method is. You told him something completely different earlier. He's contradicted you, and now you're agreeing with him in contradiction to what you said incorrectly earlier. So which one should we take as read, Dave? The one that you babbled off incorrectly and were challenged with and have now comported to his nonsense. So, yes, you're more confident in your bullshit and you're called a doctor. So, yes. Your bullshit version's the right one, not my bullshit version from earlier. I concede to your more superior bullshit, doctor.
Yep.
Okay. So now if someone says the Earth is round.
Again.
Sorry, I just... Dave is going along to get along. He's going, yeah. And he's then going to try and put in what he wants to put in. But he never gets the chance. Your man just doesn't give him an opportunity. Every time Dave just goes, yeah, okay, I'm agreeing with all that, so now you will allow me to say something and do something. And then your man, as soon as Dave starts saying something or doing something, your man goes, anyway, never mind all that. I have data to collect, blah, blah, blah. And Dave never gets that. So he agreed to a load of things for nothing.
Yeah. Agree to a load of stuff that's wrong so that you can get a word in and then achieve nothing.
Okay. Or someone says the Earth is flat. They have to propose an experiment.
No, flat is an aspect that can be measured, and it is measured. So that's all I need to present. Earth as a flat plane being measured as a flat plane. That's it. Once I present that, that's it. Experiment, you're in a category error.
Let's do it.
Everyone agrees to. Okay.
I got it.
And then they go. So before we go there was a recent experiment that was done in Antarctica, right?
No, there was not. They made quite a few measurements of a flat Earth in Antarctica. That's what they actually did. When we looked at the data, going along with your charlatan version of science, it was all flat, Dr. Shiva. All of their measurements, they weren't science. We've already called Duffy a fraud for this. Now, if you're going to bolster this as being science when it definitely doesn't follow the method, I'm just going to say you're complicit. You're a fraud too.
It was not an experiment.
Were you trying to get something in?
One second, Nathan.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I stepped on you a second ago because I thought you were finished what you were saying. What this guy is doing is what the ballers always do. They drone on and on and on with all, I don't care if they're a PhD or some random idiot on YouTube. They drone on and on and on with the same malarkey and BS. And then they try and build an agreement ladder. Right? And before you know it, you've signed a contract that goes along with their BS. That's what this guy is doing now. So do you agree with this complete heap of rubbish that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I just proposed there a minute ago? Do you agree with that? Do you know what I mean? Because that way they build an agreement ladder, and before you know it, you're agreeing to something that has no relevance to anything, and it's going to end up with them begging the question and proving their own point by, inserting their own data and getting their own data back. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah, Dave's not even listening to him. He doesn't know what's going on. He should have spotted about 5 questions ago that this was leading to TFE. Like when I spotted it. I haven't watched this, by the way.
Experiment. It was an observation of a light in the sky under very sketchy circumstances. Let me show you an experiment.
But that too. But Dave, that is an experiment because
it's not.
It is an experiment.
Yeah, you don't get to tell him it's not, Dave. You agreed with him defining what science was in the face of you not knowing. Now, this pisses me off royally, given that I attempted to educate your dumbass on what science actually was, and you shut me down in favour of telling me how many app sales you got. Yeah? You're a scumbag, you're a charlatan, you're only interested in app sales, telling me how big your boat is. Rather than learning, when I took my time out of my day, not for profit, yeah, to educate you. Not so I could better feed my kids and pay my mortgage, so that you wouldn't be in this embarrassing position where this guy's handing you your ass with utter garbage that's wrong. And you don't know what to do, all you can do is agree with him. So don't tell him it's not an experiment. You mean because I can use those words to great effect when I shut people down? You don't know what these words mean. You have just demonstrated to him that you don't know what science is. You've agreed with his crap. So you're not in a position to say no, Dave. I am, because I know what science is. I attempted to educate you with it, didn't I, Dave? No. How big your boat is and how much sunbathing you and Whitsit are doing together was what you told me about. Didn't you, Dave?
I knew, sorry, just 1 second, Nathan. I won't keep on holding it up, but I knew this would infuriate you. Because if Dave had actually paid attention instead of being an arrogant idiot, right? If he paid attention to what you were trying to promote, what you were trying to teach him and get across to him, he would have annihilated this guy and took him apart. But instead, he had to go along with some BS global agreement ladder to try and get a word in. And then every time he was allowed to get a word in, he wasn't allowed to get a second word in. You'll hear it as it goes on. So that's what you get. You get an agreement ladder. You either know what you're talking about or you end up in an agreement ladder.
Yeah, because he can't challenge him. Dave doesn't have a leg to stand on here. He's just said, no, it's not an experiment. Dave doesn't know why it's not an experiment. That's the problem. And this is exactly why I approached Dave all those years ago, repeatedly, trying to educate him on science. Same reason I approached Jaron. Same reason Whitsit was approached by QE. Same reason I approached Bob. This is the problem here. Dave's here, it seems, to tell people about how Earth's not a ball, with lots of ball talk, and then when push comes to shove, it could be a really big ball, end quote, Dave. Now, when it comes to stuff that doesn't sit in line with their grift, that also, like this doctor, uses the words of science to peddle inertial planes and incoherent dielectric planes and ether. Dave's already peddled it. He put it right at the start. Again, see the pre-show if you want to see the first few minutes of the video. But Dave's only interested in his bleeding ether grift. Giving people a new bullshit story to replace the old bullshit story that he goes to great lengths to insert bits of their narrative in. Earlier, he was telling you about how the balloon should be 1,000 miles this way because Earth's turning underneath it. Oh, really? Why are we reinforcing globe narratives and globe stories about what things should happen? Why? Only for Dave to then come to the actual point, the nitty-gritty, where he's talking to somebody who's in seeming authority with the title of doctor about science, and he comes to challenge the guy and say, no, this very devastating, destroying my app grift observation in Antarctica isn't an experiment, says Dave. How the hell would you know?
Mm-hmm.
Even how you propose to observe data is an experiment, okay? You're saying, I'm going to do this.
See, Dave, you should be saying no. But you don't know, do you? You haven't got a clue what he's just said to you and how wrong it is. You don't know what science isn't either, do you, Dave? You pathetic, grifting weasel. Why are you agreeing with him he's wrong? Are you just here to con flat earthers, Dave? Because according to this interview put on your own channel, you're agreeing with him when he tells you about the fraud and con that he's using and TFE's using. Why would you be agreeing with him? If you are subscribed to Flat Earth Dave Interviews channel, go and let him know that you are unsubscribing from him because he's lying to you. He's a con man. He's a grifter. He's only here to squeeze app money out of you with crap instead of, that's in place of Flat Earth Society crap that Dave demeans. He'll take $5 off you for it. Flat Earth Society will give you their crap for free. Dave will charge you for it, while simultaneously agreeing with globe numpties about what science isn't. What a con man. You've just agreed with him. Now, but for the fact that I attempted to educate this idiot, who looks incredibly old and haggard now, let's be honest. Dave looks like an old turd that's just come down the bottom end of the U-bend, nodding along with this charlatan about what science isn't. Just go away, Dave. You're not doing a good job. And you're an old dog that can't learn new tricks. I've tried to teach you them, haven't I? I attempted to educate Dave on this shit, and he was just gonna tell me about the money he grifted from you lot, the audience. Yeah? Talking to you, the audience, when I say this. He's grifted every one of you for your $5 for his app. He's just conned you with nonsensical garbage, and rather than spending the time to actually learn decent flat earth arguments from people like me, he spent the time showing me all the sales he made. Doesn't need to know about science so that this man can con you with what isn't science. And Dave will agree. So definitely go along to his channel and let him know. No, this is the last straw, Dave. Why are you agreeing with globeheads about what science isn't? You total scammer. You fraud. Why are you lying to us about what science isn't? It's outrageous. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having these frauds and grifters in our flat earth community telling you, oh, yeah. Deciding that if Earth's a sphere is part of the hypothesis, yes. Nod, Dave. Because all Dave wants to do in his mind is get to the point where he tells you to buy his app. That's all this is. Just one big build-up for buy my app. Because he's not disagreeing with the con man on the left-hand side of the page when he tells him what science is incorrectly. Dave agrees. You don't need people like Dave in your life. He's only here to get $5 out of you. That's all he sees when he talks to you. Will you give me $5 for my app? That's all he cares about.
This and this. I'm going to collect this data, and then I'm going to do this, and this to mine.
Okay, now let's give the audience some actual flat earth facts. Given that this guy's talking about actually collecting data, right? Okay, no worries. What was the data they collected down in Antarctica? Down being the antipodal assumption they need to make you think that it's going to be proving something when they go to the bottom of a ball by antipodal assumption by saying down. But what are the data points they actually gathered? Oh, they gathered quite a few flat earth elevation angle measurements, didn't they? Yeah? How high the sun was above the horizon with an angle that needed a flat plane. So here's me, an actual, genuine flat earther, telling you in no uncertain terms what they got in the south, in Antarctica, in the form of flat earth measurements. Now, you don't need to give me $5. I mean, if you want to say thank you in the comments, that'd be absolutely wonderful. But you don't need to give me a damn thing. Dave, on the other hand, will let this charlatan lie to you about what science isn't, just so he can get to the bit in the interview where he tells you to give you $5 for his app. That's his only motivation. I'll tell you how Earth's measured flat. Dave will nod along in an agreement ladder till he gets to the point he can flog you his bleeding app.
Find that data to model it.
Right.
So I haven't even looked into the math of this or any of this.
Well, good job I did. I told my audience in advance of you telling them that you haven't done the slightest bit of research before having this clown on your show. Because this is going out on your channel too, right, Dr. Shiva? Yeah? You didn't do any research. Good job I told you about the data points that they got in Antarctica. They're all flat earth proofs. Every single measurement they took, without exception, from the moment they started presenting them. Literally live, I was there to say you'll need a flat earth when you level your scale. The very first measurement they presented. They claimed it was proving gravitational forces. Idiots, out of date by 110 years. Meanwhile, they're leveling their tools to a plane of reference. They'll need a flat earth for their evidence that they're presenting. For their data points, Earth must be flat. That's what I give to my audience. Yeah? What's Dave giving you thus far? Earth's supposed to turn under the balloon 1,000 miles. Checking out, I'm getting super chats. I'm actually getting money out of people. Please don't call me a con man. A shout out to Chubicarus. He says, thank you, Nathan. Well, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
1 second, Nathan.
Go ahead.
What will become very apparent with this guide is that he's actually so out of date that he's actually pre-1800s when it comes to this topic. You see what I mean?
Yes, 110 years out of date, correct. Carry on.
No,
carry on.
he's more than that. When it comes to this topic, this guy, like, what he starts proposing is what Samuel Rowbottom proposed back in the 1800s. Without that, speaking about that, he thinks that he has some information or some wisdom or education, and he's going to start at the start as if nobody ever thought of that. You know what I mean? He's just, this fella is so far up his own ass. It's unbelievable.
You know, I have 4 engineering degrees, right? And this is what we do. Engineers can't lie like scientists can.
Right, science is an empirical method of establishing cause of effect when varying a presumed cause of the effect you observe in step 1 that you didn't detail, to see if it does or doesn't cause the effect. The method is empirical. You say scientists lie. Yeah, you're talking about that very method of lying with the charlatan terms and creating ideas like flat plane versus globe and calling our hypothesis. That's you! Me, I'm detailing a method that's empirical. You vary A to see if it causes B. Now, your prediction is A will cause B. Alternative hypothesis. And A won't cause B. That's a null hypothesis. Zero difference result prediction. Now, only one of those two outcomes can be the case when you do an experiment. You vary A, it either does or does not cause B. Now, when it doesn't cause B, you put a tick next to that prediction. A will not cause B. Until you varied A, you didn't know. It was a prediction. A won't cause B. You varied A, it didn't cause B. You've validated that prediction. That's science. Now, obviously, you don't test for the null. Nobody's trying to cause something not to happen. You want to induce the effect you studies at step 1. That's the whole point. You want the alternative prediction, the alternative hypothesis, to be correct. When you vary A, B will happen, is what you want to occur when you do an experiment. But what do you mean men lie? It's got nothing to do, it's taken out of it. It's a process of validating the cause of an effect. That's what natural science is. It's got subtle to do with men. It's got subtle to do with engineering, unless it's part of the apparatus. It's just nonsensical drivel coming out of a guy who's going on about his degrees in engineering. Like he's a scientist. You're not. You want to be. And the reason you want to be is because you know somewhere deep down that science is an empirical method. And you want part of that. Because it gives you a reason to be so friggin' pompous. And sound like, oh, I absolutely must know what I'm talking about. I've got several degrees, you know. Really? You'd think you'd know what science is then. You don't.
Engineers have to build stuff that works.
Go ahead, Brian.
Very quick. If he's an engineer, then he surely, depends on what kind of engineering he was doing. But if he was doing anything structural, then surely, especially if it involves roads or anything like that, surely a question to ask him at that point would be, so have you ever accounted for the curve of a globe Earth and all these measurements? Have you ever measured a globe? What measurements have you got to produce? What's he going to produce? Flat measurements based off a flat plane.
Yeah, every single time. Like the ones I went through with the audience at the point that would have been appropriate for Dave. Instead, he's nodding along with this pseudoscience spewing garbage. He's just waiting to get to his opportunity to flog his app, of course.
Yep.
And so we have to live with the reality of natural laws. Otherwise, you can say all the shit you want, but if something you build doesn't work, it falls out of the sky.
Right.
So if you go to the experiment.
He just included 3 different categories. Natural science is the overarching claim that he's talking about, or pretending to. Then he talked about natural laws. That's descriptions of things that occur in nature always. Then he described things falling out of the sky, inferring things like aeroplanes, of course, because he's an engineer, which is where he began. So that's 3 completely separate categories: engineering, laws of nature, and science and the scientific method.
That was done.
Well, he's probably sorry.
Ed?
Just say, I have a sneaky suspicion, can't read his mind, that when he's talking about natural laws, he's not saying the word gravity, but that's what's in his head.
Probably. They're going to hijack that as well.
And I believe some non-flat earther and a flat earther was involved in that. Can you describe
Yeah.
What they agreed to do.
Well, I'd rather talk about the shape of the Earth than.
Well, you haven't done that so far, Dave. Yeah, you definitely haven't done that. You're about 11 minutes into the interview. You haven't mentioned Earth being flat in terms of it being measured that way as an aspect that you can prove. All you've done thus far as I can remember, is talked about what Earth should be doing as a spinning ball and how things should be 1,000 miles an hour away, or whatever it is that you spewed in regards to globe Earth rhetoric thus far. Because that's what you've done. And you told us how Owen Benjamin knows Earth's not a ball.
And the lights in the sky that nobody knows what they are, how far they are.
No, but
so,
just to educate.
Is it me, or is it previous to this in the first 5 minutes, or was that a clip that he's going to play later? He told us this sun was local, and he's got an app that professes it to be that way.
Okay, people. Some guy agreed to do this experiment with this guy, right?
No, they did not. No one agreed to do an experiment. They agreed to go make an observation of the sky and see what it told us.
Right, but that's an experiment, Dave.
Well, it's not, because the lights in the sky do not dictate the shape of the floor.
What's that got to do with it not being an experiment, though? That's a non sequitur response, Dave, that highlights your ignorance in this subject. Yeah, it's a shame you couldn't sit down and pay attention long enough while I took time out of my day to have your ear to educate you on this stuff, and you rejected it, didn't you, Dave? No, shut it down and told me about how many apps you'd sold and how much time you enjoyed spending on your boat. Didn't you, Dave? You didn't want to be educated and take the time out of your day to listen to an education in this stuff so that this moment can come where you are shown to be a fraud, a charlatan, Dave. Because that non sequitur response, there's an observed phenomena here, Dave. This is absolutely within the realms of science, but you're decrying it because the lights in the sky don't explain the ground. And yet here we are with celestial navigation and the elevation angle measurements that are utilised to create the globe being this man on your left's basis for his globe faith. You don't know any of this stuff, but you're more than happy to deny the lights in the sky. They're fundamental to us expanding the known territories. Did you know that? They wouldn't have got down to Antarctica if we haven't observed the lights in the sky and their geographical positions. You're all the more happy to throw the baby out of the bathwater just because it's making you look stupid with your charlatan app that was wrong, that made all of the people who bought it look silly. Shout out for the super chat.
Nathan. Sorry.
You're good.
No, go super chat first. I'll go after.
Okay. Is everyone in this chat a broke? What does that mean? Is everyone in this chat a broke? Yeah, okay. Where are the super chats? Did you give GEI Earth, Dave? Consider changing your live streams 5 p.m. everywhere in America so people with jobs can watch live. I try and actually... Thank you, Dylan, for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. And yeah, you're asking... Your sentiment I picked up on, right, is to say, have you people given Dave super chats for this crap? Divert your cash to me. Well, I'm glad you're saying it rather than me, because it seems very scummy if I do that. But yeah, I appreciate your sentiment. On the other hand, Dave's still here. I'm more annoyed about this, not because I want Dave's money, not because I want super chats to be directed from Dave to me. More power to him if he's making money from super chats, or even his app, right, for that matter. That isn't really my issue, so I'll just be honest and explain what my actual issue is, right? My issue is Dave is in front of this guy. Right now, this is new, right? This came out 16 hours ago, yeah? This is brand new, right up to date. And he's still doing it. He's making these mistakes in the face of me attempting to educate Dave to a high standard on what science is so that he could rip this guy a new one and say, no. And when asked what's the scientific method, his answer wouldn't be, well, you tell me. You tell me. Is your opponent? What about I tell you, Dave, I'm on your side? But you didn't want to listen when it was me telling you. But you're asking your opponent to tell you. Oh, yeah, following in the footsteps of Jerem much. You tell me, McToon, how this works on a ball. Yeah? Why is your opponent educating you in science, Dave? And you're rejecting the flat earth education in it. Very shilly. Yeah? Now, I can say that tongue-in-cheek. But my actual annoyance is that I just want Dave to be doing a good job here. It's what I've said all along. And I get people like Neil, why are you going to Jaren? Why do you keep beating a flogging dead horse? I don't get it. Well, this is why. So when they have these moments, when they're in front of Dr. Whoever, they don't have their ass handed to them and they don't make us look bad by reflection, whether I like it or not. This guy's going by the name Flat Earth Dave. isn't he? Whether I not like this or not, he's making us look bleeding awful. And I don't want that. So what do I try and resolve that for? How can I get around that? You can hear the frustration in my voice, me stuttering around my words. Because this is something I'm actually passionate about. When it's people on my own side, there's no good reason why I shouldn't have had the opportunity from this man to educate him on this subject. Now, why didn't he want me to educate him on this subject? Because it affects Bob Nodell, past tense, Jaron Whitsitt, current tense, in their ether grift. They've got the Michelson-Morley experiment, haven't they? Now, me pointing out what science actually is balls up their grift. Dave's got his app grift, and incorporated into it, he's already said to this man that Earth's in a, what did he call it, an etheric plane? So Dave's got a science grift of his own. So it doesn't serve his interests to learn what science is. He's better off having his ass handed to him by a different type of grifter, this one, than knowing what it really is. So hence, when I tried to educate him on it, he shut me down, told me how good his boat was, and how much money he's making from app sales, and how much more popular he is. Didn't want to sit down and have the education, but here we are, and it pisses me off, him telling this man, who's also a charlatan, you tell me what science is, while we're in a circumstance that's consequential to other flatties. Me. Yeah, now I've tried to remedy this in advance. I've had the forethought to see that this could happen and tried to remedy it with Dave personally. I've taken time out of my day to educate this man on this so that this doesn't happen. So it really, really breaks my heart.
Like, look up at the lights in your ceiling and tell me if they tell you what shape your floor.
Yes, sorry to get emotional, but that's how I feel. It's not often you'll hear this sort of tone from my voice. A slight quiver in my voice as I sound genuinely and sincerely upset. I am. Same applies when it's Jaron. I'm sorry to steal your thunder, Brian. Go ahead.
No, you're okay, because it's along the lines of what I was going to say, actually. What I was going to say is there's so many people just on Discord, flat earthers on 24/7 and politics servers, stuff like that, who could take out this guy with ease. You send in Flatsy. Flatsy would annihilate this guy just on her own, right? Now, that's because they've learned, right? They don't have apps. They're not getting $5 a go for apps or whatever else, right? They don't have boats, but they do have the information. But Dave puts himself in front of people like this, or he's gradually be heading that way, right? And as you said, he tried to defend Bob Nodell and whatever he was promoting, and Jaron and Whitsitt and whatever they were promoting by not learning about scientific methods. Just that one topic that everyone on Discord knows. So any one of them could have taken this guy apart, could have rightly so called the guy a fraud to his face there and then. I would have called him a fraud within the first minute if he tried to argue against me. Do you know what I mean? But Dave puts himself in that position. It's like jumping into it. He wants to be in the Monaco Grand Prix, right? But he's not much of a driver. So what are you doing? Trying to jump into the car. You've no business being there.
Floor is. Here's an experiment. Let me show you an experiment.
Let's not talk, Dave. Let's not talk analogies, because analogies in science don't work.
So I got you. So let me show you an experiment right here. If something doesn't curve, then it's what?
Then it's describing something curving or not, and it's not an experiment. Yet you've just segued into charlatanism by saying, now I've got a different experiment. And this is it, isn't it? I haven't watched this, so I didn't know preemptively that was what's going to happen. But I suggested that Dave's got an etheric grift to punt. But no, he's just using a different version of the same thing. He's called this an experiment. You're a fraud. You know better than Duffy. Duffy's calling stuff random experiments when they're not. So's Dave. How are they any different? I'm not being rhetorical. How is that any different? What Dave's just done in the last 10 seconds is no different to Duffy's fraud. I've got an experiment for you. If there's no curve here, it's not an experiment. That's fraud. Straight up fraud from Dave. Isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately it is. because what he's doing is no different than what Duffy did or this guy is trying to do. Same thing.
It just breaks my heart.
What do you mean?
If something does not curve, then it's flat.
Well, you have to define what curvature.
If something has no curvature, then it's flat. Okay.
No, Dave, we heard you the first 3 times. The guy's response was, you'll have to define what you mean by curvature. And what I read between the lines mean is you'll have to actually formulate that into an example that makes coherent sense and then draw a conclusion after defying that which you suppose and then haven't overcome in any way, shape or form, but have labelled an experiment as a fraud.
Here is a lake, right? And we got a camera on a frozen lake. So large bodies of water at rest lie flat. When
I can't make out. No, Dave, stop. I don't know what you're showing me here.
I'm going to show you. You have to give me time to show you.
No. But what I'm saying is, I haven't seen this experiment you're showing me.
But
it's not an experiment. So I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to allow you to show it. I mean, your scummy behaviour is just going to be scummy behaviour, typical ball-head behaviour. Well, I haven't seen this. So let me get it straight. If I was to stick my head in the sand and have never seen the final experiment, I could just point my finger at you. I've never seen this. And then hand wave it. What a scumbag.
I'm going to show you, and then you can verify everything, right? And there's tons of videos, so you don't have to go and do it yourself, but you can go do it yourself.
Well, what I'm saying, Dave, time out. Okay, we agree on a scientific method. Okay.
Yeah, you did, didn't you, Dave? You agreed with this charlatan, nonsensical bullshit version of the scientific method after you defined what it was incorrectly. You agreed with him. That's right, Dave. So you're going to be dragged along like a bitch now by this man. Okay, Dave? With science. Just bearing in mind, I attempted to educate Dave in this subject so he didn't make you, the audience, by reflection, look like complete clowns with this man being dragged around like a bitch with a little tissue out of the back pocket. Because that's what this man's about to do with Dave. Rightfully so. I mean, it's not right. This man doesn't know what science is either. He's a complete fraud. He's just got more balls on him than Dave. Like more confidence. That's all it is.
Look, you've done this with a lot of people. That's great.
Yeah, just come here, Dave. Yeah, turn your pockets out so I can drag you around by them.
Great, okay?
Okay, Dave, yeah. Let's stop having you bullshitting and let's have me bullshitting for a bit. My name's Dr. Shiva. Give me your pocket. You're going to be dragged around the courtyard.
I want you to sort of just clean the slate, okay? Yep. And just think in a very clean...
Look, Dave, I can be a friend to you with science, okay, son? Okay? Yeah, you look at your shoes, son.
Anyway, you're talking to an engineer.
Yep. Yeah, you're talking to somebody who's in charge, Dave, okay? You agreed what science was, son. Yeah? You asked me, like a favour, to tell you. Yeah, I was a friend and told you, didn't I, Dave?
Who actually has to build stuff and who knows.
Now, I've got to do shit in this world, Dave. You are his bitch now, Dave. Do you understand? Now, the reason I'm hated is because I make men like this my bitch, don't I? And they absolutely despise me for it. Now, I could have given you that skill, Dave, but you were more interested in your scheming and your grifting and your bank balance and your bottom line. Now, me, I have to absolutely scrape by. Now, I'm in 2 minds whether or not it's about telling people about my latest purchase that was about $100. I've got Adam running around to get secondhand from Facebook. And literally thinking about it, every dime I get goes on things for the show. In the last 10 years, everything, and I mean everything, has been geared towards the show. If I get a spare dime, I'll buy an acoustic panel or a cable or a camera. If I need something that's broken, I'll do a GoFundMe for it. So every dime I have is dedicated not to going on nice holidays or buying a new car or, heaven forbid, a frickin' boat, but on keeping the show going so I can actually pass on some of the information that I've passed on to my audience here today. In the face of this crap, overcoming this crap, yeah, with actual, here's how Earth's measured, flat Earth elevation angle measurements came from Antarctica. You had that here today. So if you were new, you'd know Earth was measured flat and how, and who gave you the measurements to go and ask them about them. Antarctica, elevation angle measurements, sun above the horizon, flat earth angles. There you go. You've got everything you could possibly want. I have to scrape by, and any pennies that I do get extra go on the show. More recently than anything, things like a microphone. Now, that's outside of keeping the freaking crap old 25-year-old car on the road and not killing me and my kids while I'm in it. Yeah? Dave, on the other hand, has grifted his way to funding his freaking boat and having Witsit sunbathing on it. Yeah? What an absolute outrage! Why is this man being dragged around by his pocket by this con man? Why is Dave now this man's bitch? Why? I'll tell you why. Because he was more interested in bragging about his boat and his app sales when I was trying to teach him about science. The very thing he's being dragged around by his short hairs by. You couldn't make it up. Now, my anger is actually upset. Shout out to Jardo. Here, Nathan, fix something that's broken. Like the globe. Yeah. Someone sent it to me the other day. I was explaining how I've been very frugal by taking the tyres and wheels off the car that I've got currently so that I can put them on eBay to raise money for them so I can churn a new set of tyres and wheels because one of them's broken and lets air out. It's got a slow puncture no matter what tyre goes on it. The wheel seems to be knackered. In any event, I've had to do a whole load of running around, including a 200-mile round trip to Sheffield to buy second-hand wheels so that I don't have to repair one that's already on the car. Now, that faff has taken days and days and days to end up spending maybe 500 quid on new tyres, basically, is the bottom line. Now, while I'm doing all that crap, scraping by, I watched Dave the fricking charlatan talk about his boat and his app sales, while he lies through his back teeth, leads a whole bunch of people on a merry path of azimuthal equidistant projections and local suns that get debunked by this crap that he's trying to hand wave. On a path that he's been led down because he hasn't recognised the false dichotomy affirming the consequent that's being prepared by his opponent, who knows less about science than he does, but has taken an authoritative stance with Dave while he drags him around by the pocket. This is an absolute outrage of a circumstance to be in. I just feel it's unjust. It just feels so unfair. Shout out another Jardo super chat. So I just shout out the super chat and then go, because I'm sure there's worse people off than me. I shouldn't moan. Stay tuned for membership, peeps. Thank you for the super chat, Jardo. Go ahead, Brian.
I think a big difference between the likes of Dave and Witsit is that they're worried about how they come across to the audience that's listening, that guy's audience, whatever else. We're not worried about that. You're not worried about that. You're just going to state what you know to be true, end of story. You're not going to listen to any of this guy's BS. You're not going to tolerate any of his illogical nonsense. It's just not going to happen. And you call him a fraud if he proves himself to be a fraud. End of story. You don't care who's listening. And that's the difference. Dave is pandering to an audience because he's trying to keep himself popular or whatever else. Instead of just, you know what I mean, stating the facts. He's not doing that. He's not even want to learn them. He wants to just go around with some grift and, pander to an audience. Always come out with a neutral outcome. As opposed to just state the facts. And that's the difference.
Right, a couple of shout-outs. So shout out to Jardo, who's gifted a load of memberships, and obviously while I'm reading out the next super chat, a whole bunch of people will be picking up those free memberships. So thank you very much indeed, Jardo. And if you become a member, check out the members-only live stream, or whatever you call it, Uncut and After Show, as that will have the first 10 minutes of us critiquing Dave and Dr. Shiva. So we did do 5 or 6 minutes before we started live. Also, Berticus, thank you very much for the $200 Australian dollars. Wow, really appreciate the support. Big spender. He says, make an app and get some guns. They're not legal here. Where are they in the UK? Nowhere to be found. We're not allowed them. But thank you so much for the super chat and big spender, big generosity. Thank you very much indeed. I had it up on screen actually. Then he took it off. Must have pressed the button twice. There we go. Moving on.
Laws. Okay, right. I do. All right. So you have, let's take a clean sheet of paper. We agree on the scientific method. Okay.
Yep. So let me show you.
Yeah. Yep. Now let me move on to something that isn't the scientific method, so I'm not embarrassed for a second time, is Dave exposing just how ignorant he is of this subject I attempted to educate him in. Just bearing in mind, from the audience's perspective, Dave's a poor representative because he refused the education that he needed in this circumstances from me.
My scientific experiment right here. Actual
Right. No, Dave, that makes you no better than Duffy. It means you're a fraud now. You're claiming science when you don't have any empirical adherence to the method I detailed earlier. Neither of you detailed it. Neither does Duffy. You're all frauds.
measurements.
So first, your hypothesis is what in this?
See, step one wasn't detailed by Dr. Shiva, so the first thing he's asking is, where's your hypothesis? The first thing you do is observe a phenomena, Dr. Shiva. Something that you need to know what caused it. Like, you look at something happening and go, I wonder what caused that. That's what you do as step one. Observe a phenomena happening in nature. Dave's just got a picture of a map with 8 miles written on it. Yeah? Now me, what would I do in this circumstance, given that I'm scraping by with my flat earth proofs? I'd point at the number 8 and the word miles and say that is a linear distance only possible on a flat plane. Then I'd point out the scale on the map and say that is a flat scale. Then I'd point out that the map is flat and say these are all flat Earth prerequisites and proofs of Earth being measured and utilised as a flat plane with flat distances. So before we've done anything, Dave's talking about something that contains 5 flat Earth proofs, and he's repackaged it as a fraudulent pseudoscience. Give that man a boat and no worries in life, while I scrape by trying to pay for tyres. Life's not fair. It just isn't. Shout out to Theophilus. Here's another dime for you. Love the show. Ephesians 2, verse 8 through 9, and 1 Corinthians 15, verse 1 through 3. I am not a biblical scholar, so I don't know what they are to even try. Anybody on the panel know what they are? No, clearly not. I'm sure somebody will look it up. Thank you very much for your generosity, though. I really appreciate the support. I'm sorry I can't back your sentiment in terms of your biblical verses. I just don't have the acumen. My bad. But again, thanks for the super chat.
Hypothesis is if the Earth is a globe at the size that they tell us, it has a...
Right. If Earth is a globe, Dave, you said earlier in your bullshit version of science that was wrong, the word variable, didn't you, Dave? Yeah? I think you used independent variable and, quote, fixed variable, end quote, dickhead, charlatan, fraud, grifter, Dave. Yeah, so fixed, is this a fixed variable, Dave? If Earth is a globe, what kind of variable is that? Can you vary this, you shithead? Lying grifter scammer? Doesn't sound like you're going to be varying Earth being a fucking globe, Dave. Yeah, it just sounds like you're a con man. This isn't a variable, is it, Dave? No, it just sounds like you're a bullshitter and a con man and a scumbag. Why is it that the scumbag fraud con men end up with the boat and the honest people with the decent information get shoved to the bottom of the list and have to scrape by in life? Why does life work out that this con man ends up with a freaking boat off flat Earth? Why? How is life fair? He's a con man.
A curvature rate. We know what that rate is based.
Straight into talking
Wait a
about
second.
curvature rates. Flat Earth Dave could be a really big ball. Dave is now going to start telling you about curvature rates and globe stuff. Yeah? Leaving you with the fantasy of how it isn't a ball. Yeah, but you got lots of ball stuff and ball maths going around your head while he frauds you, calling it an experiment when it isn't. I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Neil wants to say something as well. You go first, Neil.
Probably found the verses. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it isn't fair, but they're always going to, profit from this. We're not looking for a profit, but it will come because you are laying down truth. That cannot be mistaken.
No, I do want to profit. First and foremost, I'm a YouTuber. I'm here to make videos, right? Now, lo and behold, I've picked a subject that's censored algorithmically. Now, don't get me wrong, that's annoying. But I've got just as much passion for videography as I do for Flat Earth. That's the annoying part of it. That's why I get upset when I talk about my endeavours to educate Jaron, Bob, not Witsit, that was QE's task for whatever reason that fell on QE. But certainly Bob, certainly Jaron, certainly Dave. Go ahead.
You didn't hear what I said. Yeah, you are going to profit. But when you profit, it's going to be with truth. You'll see. It's coming.
Yeah, and I don't begrudge Dave as much as I say it tongue-in-cheek. Oh, yeah, unsubscribe. Oh, yeah, I'd have his super chats in a heartbeat. Whatever I've said. Don't mistake that for being sincere. I don't decry Dave's living. Good for you. Make as much money as you possibly can off apps. But do it with the right backing, with the right information, so that when you're out there flogging your apps, the people who give you $5 have at least got a decent grounding in what caused them to be conned onto a ball with science. It's like base one, day one stuff for Flat Earth debate. And it's what I've attempted in person to go through with Dave. It's not like I'm saying this because we've responded to his videos like this. No. I mean, I've got a personal line to Dave and I've sat down with him talking to him personally, trying to educate this stuff, and he's rejected it.
Yeah, like it's crazy because Dave, your app, like the app itself, other than like whatever safety issues, the app was fine. It did not need the UAE stuff. You still connected people to videos that algorithmically they would not have seen. Now, that's still useful. And if you were doing that, I still think you should get paid if you were found a way to get paid through your app, that you're doing something that is otherwise not easy to do. That's fine. But we hate all the other stuff that's not necessary, Dave. Like,
no, it's outrageous. Why should he? You're like, oh, he should profit. It's like if it was in a hierarchical system, if it was Ford, and the guy that keeps coming up with ideas for Ford cars that cause car accidents keeps getting promoted, and the guy that's actually putting in the engineering that's keeping the cars selling, and the guy that's coming up with the advertising slogans and campaigns and videos that let people know that they need to buy these cars, so they do, they keep getting fired. But the guy who's causing problems and lawsuits left and right and delivering misinformation left and right and becoming influential in all the right places, but delivering all the wrong information to him, he keeps getting promoted and he's out on his frickin' boat. How is that fair?
Yeah, but Nathan, this kind of thing does often happen in life, where someone becomes a manager that has no business being a manager, or they move up in the managerial ranks. And what they're actually doing is getting there off the backs of the people underneath them who should be in that position. Now, what normally happens is they're found out, right? But unfortunately, we have to go through the process of the likes of Dave being found out and Witsit being found out publicly, not by us, but publicly by the public, and then maybe there's an opportunity or a chance after that. But at present, the public are going to be seeing David and Witsit. And that's all Dave, Weiss, and Witsit, and that's what they're going to see. Even though those two shouldn't be in that position. And it's not about begrudging the money. Well, I won't begrudge Witsit money because he lies to his subscribers. But it's more about they're supposed to be representing a lot of other people besides just us, and they're doing a very poor job of it. Now, instead of learning about scientific method from you, Dave decided to be arrogant with you and tell you about his boat. And now here he is representing us with some guy called Doctor, who the general public will view as some authority figure. And this guy is telling Dave all about what science is and getting an agreement ladder going with Dave. And Dave is going, yes, just to try and selfishly get his own point in, instead of not being selfish in the first place, learning about scientific method and being able to take apart these frauds like this Dr. Shiva, who, as I said, the average person on Discord could do.
Indeed. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, gifted out memberships and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to Discord and G Plus for making today's live show possible, and I will see you all in the next video.